about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So there's been a lot of debate. If somebody does drugs, do they need to be arrested? Well, it depends. If they are going to harm themselves and harm others, they need to be away from the areas where they could hurt others. And if somebody is going to get behind a wheel and kill somebody, that they can't be driving. That's why we have laws in place. And if they can unfortunately expose others to their needles, and I mean, if they could put other people in harm's way by their drug use, then it is the responsibility of the city to ensure that people around them and schools around them are safe. I think we're hearing in New York that there's areas where there's needle exchanges and things like that right by preschools. Well, if people are dumping their needles in the street, these kids have access to them. So, as much as I supported marijuana being legalized and us not making that a felony if somebody's smoking weed, on the other end, we do have to protect our kids. We do have to protect community members. And if somebody does use an illegal substance in public and could have a very, shall we say, unpredictable behavior as a result of that, they should be arrested. That's kind of how the laws have been. Well, Seattle, they have a new mayor, and right, it's their new mayor, and she is a little bit more soft on crime. And I apologize. I had this here and now well, that's kind of interesting. Now I can't find it. Okay. So, sorry. See what happened? I know. Maybe I could use something. Okay. So the Seattle police officers now are looking at this new directive from the mayor, where Mayor Katie Wilson is saying now to not arrest people that are doing open drug use. And open drug use would put individuals at risk. There'd be needles. There'd be maybe behavior that was harmful to them, to others. If somebody's high and they're not understanding the traffic laws, they're walking in front of another car, could cause a car accident, could harm themselves and others if they're doing this near a school and kids are picking up needles. And so there's been laws in most cities where open drug use is illegal. Well, apparently Seattle is changing this. According to the Seattle Police Officers Guild, the new mayor, Katie Wilson, has issued a directive to stop officers from arresting people for open drug use. Now, the police officers are concerned. The Seattle Police Officers Guild is concerned that this could create more death and societal decay. And they're also concerned that, that open drug use is going to be, harming others. This is something that I'm kind of blown away on. And I understand Katie Wilson has been just sworn in as the city's 58th mayor. She's only 43 and she identifies as a Democratic socialist. But when you're looking at what was it during the COVID? There was I can't remember. It was that grid in Seattle, and I'm sorry, I can't think of the name right now. This is what happens when you come back from vacation, even though I worked the whole time. But when you had that the decay of these blocks, and people who were living there was asking for police to come, and it was supposed to be a no police zone. This was during the COVID years. People were asking for enforcement. Why? Well, it's not because they want to be arrested. It's because they want to know that there's going to be safety for their kids. There's going to be safety for others. And somebody being able to do rampant and open drug use, some drugs, they might not cause them to be harmful and dangerous, but others can be. And so that's why we have laws. That's why many drugs are considered illegal. And so seeing that the new mayor of Seattle, when Seattle had such issues as it pertained to drug use, you would think that she would, work more with community leaders, work more with hospitals, work more with doctors, going, what do we do to help people get out of rehab, but saying, or get into rehab, and what do we do more to rehabilitate and decrease drugs on the street? But instead, going to these laws of police, leave them alone. Let them be out there high. Are they going to walk into a bus or a car? Are they going to expose kids to their needles? Are they going to, and some people who do drugs, they're sweet as can be, and they just do their own thing. But others can become dangerous, can become violent, and we're not arresting them because we think they're bad people. I don't think somebody who does drugs, is a bad person and needs to be arrested because they are evil. We do that to protect others. The incarceration, and I would hate, to ever have to go to jail, and it doesn't look fun. It looks horrible, but it's a way to protect that person and to protect others. Now, there's rehab facilities. But look at, the guy that played Michael on All in the Family. I mean, when you look at and I really, really apologize that I'm having such brain farts today. So maybe that's the thing. Maybe I need to maybe, change from my water to something that's a little bit more stimulating. But when you look at Rob Reiner's situation where he had a son that was, very, very erratic, and some people can become very, very dangerous when it comes to drugs, when it comes to withdrawal of drugs. And so our job in society is to make sure that these individuals are not going to be a risk to themselves or a risk to others. And so that's why we do arrest. Arrest isn't just you committed a crime per se. It's to also protect that we want to protect others. And we want to get them help. So going soft on this is very confusing. Now, hopefully we'll get a little bit more clarity on this, but maybe she's trying to thank the people who voted for her, going, look, just continue to do the drugs because you voted me in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away. Back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So this has been, I tell you, it's really interesting. One thing that COVID has done is it has taught patients that they don't need a doctor, that they could do a lot of things themselves. And if they do need a doctor, they don't necessarily have to go in. They could meet with them or talk to them remotely, or a nurse, or, and it's hard for somebody like me who was during 36-hour shifts, with coming in at 5, 6 in the morning, and then you have to stay all night long because you're on call and you don't get to go home till 6 o'clock the next day. So 36-hour shifts, it's very hard for somebody like me who was trained and yelled at, where you can't be half-assed. We can't do things half-assed. We have to do things the right way. You have to examine the patient. You have to be thorough. That now all of a sudden, we're like, oh, you don't need to go in. You don't need to be screened as often. We could save money. We can, save you money and save you time and embarrassment. And so it's been, kind of frustrating that what was, just what was doctrine and what were basic laws, and you have to have a physical exam, you have to do a thorough history, you have to then maybe re-examine and understand that somebody might be telling you something but have something underneath. that like how many times does patients say I have heartburn, but they're actually having a heart attack? So you can't just take what they say online as he has heartburn, here's medication, because we've had cases now where people told the doctor over the phone, I have heartburn or I have acid reflux, and they actually were having a heart attack. So we've kind of for somebody like me that's a little bit old school, I really miss that a lot of patients aren't getting the thorough exam. And how many of you have a melanoma growing on your back or on your underside, but no doctor has seen that because nobody is examining your heart and lungs and examining your skin because you're only doing virtual care. So I worry about that. On the other hand, I am very glad that we have access to medical providers when you can't get in with a medical provider. You're not feeling well, you're vomiting, and we're able to see you, at least offer you some medication so that you can go to a medical provider. So I think there's some fantastic healthcare that we are able to deliver remotely. But when patients are not doing their cancer screens, I get a little nervous. And I think we're going to see people diagnosed with higher stage cancer because they're not going in for their screens. Well, one very effective screen is the pap smear. It's not fun. People do not like getting a pap smear done. They don't like going in and getting that done. But most cervical cancer is caused by the HPV virus. And so when we do a pap smear, not only are we taking cells from your cervix, but we're also examining and checking to make sure that you haven't been infected with HPV, which could cause cervical cancer. Sometimes it's self-limited and goes away, but sometimes certain types could cause cancer. But when we also do a pap smear, we're looking at the vaginal wall. We're looking for melanoma. We're looking for skin cancer. We're looking for the positioning of your uterus. We're checking for ovarian masses. We're looking at uterine thickening. We're also assessing if there's trauma, if there's assault. Are you having dryness, which is causing tearing and putting you at risk for more infection? We also evaluate, to see if you're at risk for STIs or sexually transmitted diseases. So when we do a pap smear, we're looking for melanomas. When we do the rectovaginal exam, we're also checking the stool for occult blood. So for years, the pap smear wasn't just one small aspect. It was multifactorial, and we screened for a lot. Skin cancer, colon cancer. I mean, there's so much got done in that pelvic exam. But as the guidelines changed, it allowed women, if they had an HPV test, if they weren't then they wouldn't necessarily have to go in for a pap smear. And so the guidelines changed as it pertained to the human papilloma virus. Many of us doctors agreed with that, going, well, if you don't have HPV or you have the self-limiting kind, you aren't at risk. But a lot of us doctors, including myself, but what about all the other things we do? We'll do a self-breast exam. We'll screen for assault, abuse. We'll screen for STIs. And so we started to see, once they changed the guidelines for pap smears and said you don't have to go in every year, which I agreed with. I don't think you have to go in every year for a pap smear. But what ended up happening is then we saw a huge soar of STDs because we would screen for STDs when we would do a pap smear. If there was vaginal discharge, we'd culture it. If you were sexually active and you even once didn't use a condom, we're like, well, while we're here, we'll also swab, for GC, chlamydia. And so we were more comprehensive. And so once we saw women start going to the doctor less and going every 3 or 5 years, we started to see spikes in STDs. And from what I'm hearing, we're starting to see spikes of higher stage cervical cancer getting diagnosed because they're not getting caught at the earlier stages. So we need to, relook at what we're doing. Well, now there's new recommendations released by the Health Resources and Services Administration, part of Health and Human Services Department, saying women aged 30 to 65 with an average risk of cervical cancer, right, can actually do a self-administered HPV test. So many women don't like going for pap smears because they don't like the embarrassment. They don't want to be naked. They don't want to be in the stirrups. So if people could self-administer their own test, they might screen themselves more. I'm a fan of that with caveats. I think more people would screen themselves for HPV if they could do it at home test. I think that's fantastic. My only issue, though, is if they're not going in, are they getting all the other stuff checked out? And so, because we always screen for STIs and STDs, we screened for cancer, we asked about your periods, we checked for anemia. I mean, there were so many things we did. We did breast exams to check for breast lumps. So I love the idea of people being able to self-administer the HPV test, but you still need to go in for a physical. There's a lot going on down there. I mean, how many women have vaginal dryness? That could get addressed if you talk to your medical provider about it. If you're doing a home test, nobody's checking you for STIs, nobody's helping you with, sexual dysfunction and other things. But this is cool. So the test detects human papillomavirus. Now, HPV causes cervical cancer. They believe it causes at least 4,000, it takes at least 4,000 lives each year, many thousands more affected by cervical cancer. Per the new recommendations, women should get an HPV test every 5 years, either swab or administered by a clinician. Now, they're saying, according to NBC News, that doctors still should make pap smears available, but they say they're no longer the preferred cervical cancer screening method for women age 30 and up. Now, the Health Resources and Services Administration is still recommending pap smears every 3 years for women 21 to 29. But listen, as a woman, I can't stand, getting gynecological exams. And my gynecologist is fantastic. I just don't like going. None of us like going. But she screened for ovarian masses. She screened for other, a pelvic exam should listen to the heart, should listen to the lungs, it's an exam. And so one thing that I'm a little worried about is this is another, shall we say, reason for people to not go to the doctor and get an exam. How many times did I pick up on a murmur because a woman was coming in for her pap smear and I would listen to her heart and lungs? And I know people say, Dr. Dahlia, you're old school. You trained in the 90s, and so you're just old school. Go get jiggy with it and leave us alone. No, because how I was trained was very, very thorough. And I was taught that you couldn't be half-assed. And as much as at-home tests are very cool, what if they're not done right? Seeing patients, the worst thing was, to me, was not seeing a patient, die of an illness. That's horrible. That's horrible. But what made me, not sleep at night were the individuals who said, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't go in, and I could have done something about it. That's what really drives me crazy, and that's my biggest fear. I don't fear dying. But I fear being told, Dahlia, we could have done something to save you 3 years ago. And so it's cool that you might be able to do at-home HPV tests, and I think you should. I think that's a fantastic way to screen, but that doesn't mean to not go and get your physicals by a medical provider. 1-877-DOC-DAHLIA, don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
We, the people, are guaranteed 5 freedoms in the First Amendment.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of religion.
Freedom of the press.
Freedom to peaceably assemble.
Freedom to petition the government.
Only the United States has these 5 freedoms so simply bound together and guaranteed. Think first. Learn more at thinkfirstamendment.org.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys. We're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOC-DALI. So in the UK, they are banning junk food advertising during certain times on television. According to BBC News, junk food advertising is banned on television and online starting on Monday as part of a drive to tackle childhood obesity. This UK-wide ban stops food and drinks high in fat, salt, and sugar being advertised on TV before 2100, which is 9 o'clock p.m., and at any time online. It applies, according to BBC News, to products considered to be the biggest drivers of childhood obesity, including soft drinks, chocolates and sweets, pizzas, and ice cream. The Food and Drink Federation, which is, I think, equitable to our FDA, said it is committed to helping people eat healthily and has been voluntarily abiding by the new restrictions since October. They say, as well as more previously unhealthy foods, the ban also covers some breakfast cereals, porridges, sweetened bread products, and main meals and sandwiches. They say decisions over which products, porridge, that's a UK term. Decisions over which products fall under the ban are based on a scoring tool, balancing their nutrient levels against whether they are high in saturated fat, salt, or sugar. Plain oats and most porridge, muesli, and granola are not banned under the crackdown, but some versions with added sugar, chocolate, or syrup could be affected. Firms can still promote healthier versions of banned products, which the government hopes will lead to food makers developing healthier recipes. Now, Josh Tilley, brand strategy director of marketing agency Initial CX, said companies will still be allowed to advertise their brand in general, but not specific products. They say adverts featuring things like the PepsiCo logo or the McDonald's arches will not be banned. So larger companies may be less affected by the new restrictions. Smaller companies, Tilley said, can't necessarily afford those bigger brand campaigns. Their adverts are based on educating people about specific products, and they're no longer going to be able to do that. So it looks like there is some criticism of this. They say the ban only covers adverts in which unhealthy, I know this is a BBC thing, so they call them adverts. We call them ads or advertisements. I remember my grandmother saying advertisement. I'm like, say what? She's like, it's an advertisement. Oh, you mean an advertisement? She's like, advertisement. It's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. But anyway, they say the ban only covers adverts in which unhealthy products can be seen by viewers, meaning fast food firms will still be able to advertise using their brand name. Now, previously, the HFSS food and drink adverts were banned on any platform where more than a quarter of the audience was under 16. Firms that don't apply with the new rules risk action under the Advertising Standards Authority. And their NHS data, their National Health Service data, shows that 1 in 10 reception-age children are now living with obesity. 1 in 5 children have tooth decay by the age of 5. And they say that obesity is costing the NHS about 11 billion pounds every year. And the evidence is showing children's exposure to ads for unhealthy food can influence what they eat from a young age, in turn putting them at greater risk of becoming overweight or obese. So they believe that this ad ban could prevent 20,000 new cases of childhood obesity. So some, professors of behavioral change are saying this is long overdue and a move in the right direction. So here's the thing. When I grew up, we couldn't afford fast food. I mean, my mom would cook, and if we went to McDonald's, it was a treat. I mean, it was a treat. And I remember, I'm like, but I like, my mom would make a hamburger, and I'm like, but I want McDonald's. She goes, I'm going to make it just like McDonald's. And it didn't taste like McDonald's. It didn't have all the salt and the preservatives and the little onion pieces. And I was like, oh, these hamburgers suck. And actually, they were fairly decent hamburgers, but my mom never seasoned foods. She was really anti-seasonings. And so her food was always bland. So, of course, I loved McDonald's. I thought McDonald's was so yummy. But we couldn't afford it, and it was fast food. Well, and that was in the 80s. And so, as things have progressed, fast food has become the cheaper food. I mean, after the show, I'm going to go back to the grocery store, and I'm going to be getting food, which you would think for the next week, but it's probably only going to last a couple days. And I'm probably going to be spending close to $150, $200 for groceries, for healthy grains, for some meat to cook, for vegetables, for some dairy. And I'm going to end up spending, probably close to $200 to feed a family of 4. Well, you go to McDonald's and they don't have the 99-cent menu anymore, but you're able to feed a family sometimes for under $20, getting burgers for everybody. I think In-N-Out's burgers, are they still $3.65? $3.65 a burger, which I miss, back in the 90s, the 99-cent Jumbo Jack, where you could get a burger for 99 cents. But anyway, so somebody could feed a family of 4 for under $20. Why? Because they're going to fast food. Once fast food allowed a price point that was cheaper than groceries, people went to that. Not to mention they were addicted to the taste, addicted to the salt, addicted to the sugar. I mean, they know how to make. I'm sorry, I love McDonald's. I'm looking right now at a picture of McDonald's burgers. And with the melted cheese and the ketchup and the bun, I mean, these suckers were designed to make your mouth water. And they're not attractive burgers. But I just know what they taste like. And the Pavlovian response is ridiculous, even a smell. I remember in the 90s when I would have to walk to work. You'd walk by a McDonald's and you would smell the McDonald's. So they knew how to get the smell out there to make you hungry and want to come in and get that food. So, if fast food is considered junk food, I mean, unless they say, look, well, we have salads and we're using 100% all beef and we're using lettuce and we're not using, but a ready-to-made sandwich is still considered junk food. If they're high in fat, salt, and sugar, they're going to be considered junk food. And we now prefer it because it's cheaper. And we do need to do something about that. We thought the education component would do, but people don't. It's amazing. We know we're eating fake food. A lot of this food is not real food. It's fake. And you're putting stuff in your body that your body can't metabolize. That's one of the reasons why we're obese, because our body doesn't know how to metabolize the fake ingredients and the too much salt and the too much sugar. When we were, if you look at pictures of the beach in the 60s, everybody seemed skinny. Because again, they had to eat wholesome foods that weren't full of preservatives. Nowadays, people have cereal, breakfast cereal, then at lunch they have fast food, and then for dinner they have a frozen meal. When are they eating healthy food? So your body ends up starting gaining weight. Fat is a sign of stress. It's also a sign of we don't know what nutrients we're going to get, so we're going to use fat to feed you if we're not getting nutrients. So I know people are looking at this going, wow, if they're going to be banning this, and this is going to really affect the companies, we have to figure out how to go back to healthy food and home-cooked meals. Even sandwiches. People say, well, I eat a sandwich. And I like sandwiches, but what's the bread? Is it, highly, is it a fortified multi-grain bread, or is it white bread? I love white bread, but I don't eat a lot of it because it's chemicals. It's not very healthy. Is it sandwich meat with high salt and a lot of curated preservatives? We think we're eating healthy because, you make a sandwich or you do. Yeah, but what are you using for that sandwich? Cheese. Cheese is very constipating. Why? Why does cheese constipate you, but not milk? Because cheese needs a gum to make it into that brick. It needs certain chemicals and products to make it the shape. Otherwise, it just kind of crumbles or melts. And so until we decide to shed that, we're not going to be willing to shed junk food. So it's interesting to see what's going on there. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. So I still haven't started Ozempic or Mounjaro or Wegovy or Zepbound yet for weight loss. One, they're too expensive. And two, I was talking about this at the end of last year. I'm considering going on them, not for weight loss, because I do not think I'm going to lose weight on them. And in fact, I don't want to lose weight on them because you have to eventually stop and then you're going to gain the weight back. But I am intrigued, and I want to do a study on this where some of my patients have told me that some of the telemedicine patients who have been on it saying that it did relieve some of their gut issues. And me, I have been plagued with irritable bowel syndrome and, abdominal bloating and all sorts of things. And I've had multiple bowel surgeries. And so I am intrigued to see if something like that will alter the gut microbiome to the point that I don't have as much stomach issues. I know I need to use it for weight loss, but I don't want to lose weight with them because I don't think it's going to come off. And I've been starting to lose weight on my own. Problem is, it comes back. It's interesting. For me, it was very menopausal because my estrogen started to drop and I started to gain weight and I started to look like every other woman in my family. And God bless the women in my family, but they all had weight issues. And I never did until I started to lose my estrogen. And that was in my 30s. And all of a sudden I gained weight and I'm eating less. I'm exercising just as much as I always did, but boy, did my metabolism change. And, then just like genetics, I end up looking just like, all my other family members. And God bless them. They're beautiful women. But we just always struggle with weight. And so I'm eating less than I ever have. I'm exercising more than I ever have. I'm not running like I used to. I used to run, but I'm still exercising all the time. Can't see a difference. But the gut microbiome and the change in that is fascinating to me. When I had a couple patients talk to me about how they had different bowel issues and ended up feeling better, I'm intrigued. I still haven't started yet because they're still too gosh darn expensive. And another issue I'm seeing is people with diabetes still can't get the medication. So a lot of pharmacies are out. And the last thing I want to do is use the medicine when somebody who has diabetes needs it. But it's still too expensive. Trump RX is supposed to be launched where Trump is going to offer cheaper medications. And he even said that these weight loss drugs, he's going to get down to about $275 a month. Still too rich for my blood. But I just want to do a trial over a month or two to see what happens to my gut microbiome. I'd really like to see what that does because I'm eating the vegetables. I'm doing and I think it's more mechanical because I've had so much surgery that I have so much scar tissue that but it'll be interesting to see. But because I'm not using it for weight loss or diabetes, I want those who are to get front in line. So I haven't started it yet. But interestingly, now that more insurance companies are slowly embracing these drugs, which is why your rates skyrocketed, we're hearing a lot of older individuals are like, you know what? I think I'm done. I've been on these medications. Some of these individuals are saying for years, and they're plateauing, and it's expensive. And so, interestingly, Fox News has an article that older Americans are quitting these drugs for four main reasons. Obviously, the big one is the cost. It's expensive. A study actually published in JAMA last January looked at 125,000 overweight or obese people. They found 47% of those with type 2 diabetes and 65% of those without diabetes stopped taking their GLP1s within a year of starting them. Why? Well, cost, side effects, accessibility. It's interesting because we have somebody with diabetes in the family, and every time they go to refill the medicine, because you can't refill it early, it's out of stock. And it takes a week for them to get. And so I'm like, guys, if somebody has diabetes, everybody else stay off the medicine. So that, everybody else, let the diabetics get their medication first. And that's not happening. And so people with diabetes can't get their refills. And that's concerning me. So I definitely don't want to participate in that. But these GLP-1 glucagon-like peptide 1s were used for type 2 diabetes. And then they start to be used for weight management. Now people are going, well, is this going to help somebody with their sleep apnea? Is it going to prevent cardiovascular risk? We're finding amazing studies for people on these medications, how much decreased cancer risk, heart risk. But we're not seeing the studies of those individuals who rebound back because they can't get their medicine, or because they can't afford their medicine. The medicine is still $1,000 a month. Some people are able to get it for $500 at Costco or things like that, but that's still really expensive. That's a car payment just for a shot once a month. And so rich people can afford it. You look at Amy Schumer and all that, but the average person, they can't afford that kind of, and in order to keep it up. So interestingly, the four main reasons seniors, according to this article, are not sticking to their prescriptions is it's just too costly. According to New York Times, there was 75-year-old Mary Bucklew who was paying $25 monthly copay for it. She lost $25 in 6 months, gained more energy, but then her insurance company said, we're not covering it anymore. And so then it went back up to $1,000. So from $25 a month to $1,000, she can't do it. She had to stop taking it. Now, some GLP-1 manufacturers are working with Trump to make it cheaper. There's going to be Trump RX. So we are going to see, some of the rates drop, but still, imagine $100 a month for one drug. I mean, the cheapest Trump RX is going to be able to get it down to is, I think, $225. That's still a lot of money. So these things are expensive. And what really, really stings is for those of us not on it, our insurance rates are skyrocketing because they're trying to cover these weight loss drugs. Another issue is the side effects. People are having abdominal pain, diarrhea, constipation, bloating, headaches, fatigue, liver disease, pancreatitis. So these are things that are concerning. So there was one patient who told me that she just wouldn't stop vomiting. She just kept vomiting the whole time. And so, it's working on your, these medications aren't simple. They're multifactorial and they work on multiple different mechanisms in your body. So you need to understand that there could be some serious side effects with these. Then, interestingly, a lot of people are getting dehydrated. Your older individuals, they need to remember to drink water and to be hydrating. And if they're not, because they're nauseated or something else, that could be a problem. So interestingly, they say older patients are often dehydrated from the start. They're not consuming enough water, and then that could also affect their bone density, their muscle mass, etc. Now, Novo Nordisk's Wegovy prescribing information does say that your nausea and your vomiting could lead to dehydration, but they say it's important to drink plenty of fluids to prevent dehydration, especially for those with underlying kidney issues. Well, thank you, Novo Nordisk, for saying that. But if we have an older person who's vomiting, if you're vomiting with the medication, that's not going to work. And I understand a lot of people are like, well, when I was bulimic, that's how I lost weight. No, you are not supposed to take these medications to make you vomit. The acid reflux, what it can do to your mouth and your teeth and your esophagus it's just, no. If you're vomiting, that you can't be on that medicine. And then a lot of individuals are worried about the muscle loss. So in order for you to keep your metabolism up, you need muscle. Well, a lot of individuals aren't working out and they're not going to the gym. See, if you're going to be doing Wegovy, or Zepbound or, Ozempic or Mounjaro for weight loss, you need to have your ass out at the gym. And you need to be working out and you need to be building up your muscle. If not, if you lose muscle, then you're not going to be increasing your metabolism. And these medicines wear off. I'm telling you, they will wear off. I know people are microdosing. It's like, well, when I get hungry, I go and then I do a little bit of this and I do a little bit. Listen, your body is going to get used to it. And that's what ends up happening. And so what I think that a lot of seniors and a lot of individuals are seeing is they can't keep going up on the dosing, or they're already maxing on the dosing, or they're starting to feel sick. So this is not a long-term fix to obesity. We need to retrain ourselves to not eat the junk food, to not look at the sugar, to stop with these artificial sweeteners, because these artificial sweeteners are hundreds of times more sweet than regular sugar. We need to exercise more. We need to keep our muscle up. It's not just about cardio. You got to build your muscle. So we'll keep talking about this, but it looks like some people are saying, you know what? I'm done in January. 1-877-Doc-Dolly. Don't go away.
Can you believe, with all the recent violent protests, looting, and destruction, some areas are considering either defunding or abolishing the police? At a time when America's neighborhoods need the protection of police the most, some elected officials would rather create more chaos by playing politics. If you're sick of elected officials caving in to demands of the radical left, you're not alone. It's time we stand up and declare our support for local police. The majority of police officers are important partners in protecting our God-given rights. If you prefer freedom over chaos, then learn how you can help protect the local police that serve your community. Call today and request your free Support Your Local Police info packet. Dial 800-JBS-USA-1. That's 800-JBS-USA-1. Request your free Support Your Local Police info packet by calling 800-JBS-USA-1 today.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
We the people are guaranteed 5 freedoms in the First Amendment.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of religion.
Freedom of the press.
Freedom to peaceably assemble.
Freedom to petition the government.
Only the United States has these 5 freedoms so simply bound together and guaranteed. Think first. Learn more at thinkfirstamendment.org.